Meeting called to order. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Bolin will be out tonight. He's on duty, and if we'll have the clerk call roll, please.
Councilor Elliott?
Here.
Councilor Fisher?
Here.
Councilor Grizzle? Here. Councilor Reeskamp?
Here.
And Councilor Scott?
Here.
Okay. Were there any corrections or additions to the previous council minutes of the special session on the 26th and the regular session April 2nd? Seeing no corrections or additions, the minutes have been approved. Consent calendar. The agenda as amended, and we have a couple changes. We have a presentation, and on page 2, we're going to postpone the municipal court judge contract renewal until next month. The judge could not make it today. Board minutes from the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Board, Library Advisory Committee, 2 different meetings, March 13th, April 9th, Planning Commission, February 20th. We have the liquor license annual renewals and the approval to bid Hobbs Street and Arlene Avenue neighborhood improvements and the 5th Street water line replacement. I did have one question for the chief, actually. Frank, if you could answer. I noticed on the liquor renewals that it's checked off that, you know, it's okay with the police department, and I haven't gone through that process before, and I was just looking through it, and everybody was approved. Had there been any problems with any of the businesses that were checked off?
No real issues other than your normal fights from time to time, thefts and whatnot, but no outlining huge issues.
Okay, thank you. Okay, were there any additions or other questions? Okay, seeing none, the consent calendar is approved. Next up, proclamation presentation. And let me get to my... Apologize, we have quite a bit of paper tonight. There it is. Yes, at the last second. Okay. Proclamation, the 104th Annual Strawberry Festival. Whereas 2013 marks the 104th anniversary of the Lebanon Strawberry Festival, in which we welcome thousands of visitors to our community. And whereas May 29th, 2013 marks the coronation of the Strawberry Festival Queen. And whereas the Strawberry Festival is a citywide event and recognition of this event is fitting and appropriate. Now, therefore, I, Paul Aziz, Mayor of the City of Lebanon, do hereby proclaim May 29th through June 2nd the annual Strawberry Festival, a time for fun and frolic. I solicit the cooperation of all members of the community in honoring our Queen, her court, and this year's theme of Strawberries at the Round Table, and the entire merriments of the festival. Paul Aziz, Mayor. The next up is United Way presentation. Greg Rowe, Executive Director.
Hello, my name is Greg Rowe. I'm with the United Way of Lane County. I've been coming out the last year or two doing presentations of our 211 statistics for Lebanon. Most of the people think of us as, you know, funding the Boys and Girls Club here in Lebanon, our largest funded agency, and Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and other organizations out here. But a couple years ago, we started the 211 helpline. It's a right now, all you have to do is pick up the phone and dial 211, and you will be referred to any listing of nonprofit and government social service programs in the state of Oregon. So what that does is everything from mortgage assistance to food boxes, medical, dental, and a variety of other services. There's literally thousands of both local and county and statewide services that people can be referred to. What we did is we cut out the zip codes for the city of Lebanon. They have changed here in the last year. I think it was about 9 months, 10 months ago that I was here last. But some of the things that I thought you guys would want to know are what are the greatest needs, what are the most referred to services here in Lebanon and from the for the residents of Lebanon. And the top two really haven't changed, and that has been rental assistance and energy assistance has been the top two referred to the services in Lebanon, and that's probably been that way for almost 2 years. What we did, we just had our allocations process here in Albany, at the United Way of Linn County, and we're trying to, start funding some of those programs that address some of those needs. One of the interesting parts, though, of these statistics is that the dental care has dropped out of the top 5. It's at number 6 now, but it was up in the top 1 or 2 this last 2 years ago. Since the United Way, the Boys and Girls Club opened that dental clinic for children, for any child in Linn County, we served somewhere right around 900 kids this last year, and you're seeing that drop. What we also have been doing is making sure all the schools know about it. We've done presentations at the police department. If you think about teachers and police officers, they do a lot of social work themselves. And what this does is get people the help they need and lets them cut through a lot of red tape. We've some of the other things I think were of note in this is that Fish of Lebanon is obviously doing amazing work. If you look back on page 4, they're way above everybody else in referrals. In that time frame, they were referred to 287 times. I thought Salvation Army being referred to out here, people don't think, even though they're based in Albany, Salvation Army gets a lot of referrals. So they do a lot of programming out here, not necessarily, they give money, for example, to agencies that, provide that funding, but it's technically a Salvation Army. So I thought they should get some recognition. And of course, the River Center and even Fish of Albany. Some services, they will go to Albany. Some of these services, Lebanon residents will go to Albany to get those, okay, when they're not available here locally. And so I guess, we've just been trying to offer that as a service. We've been providing it to the schools and other nonprofits for their grant writing. Again, I think we try to make sure the city's been really good about having that at all their, when we do presentations during our workplace campaign at the city of Lebanon, they've been having all our brochures and the 2-on-1 helpline out there and so forth. So that's all I was doing. Just any questions?
No, Greg, that's great information, well documented, and a great presentation. Very interesting.
Yeah, and I did bring some Linn County stats, so you can see what kind of the difference is between Linn County, and I have a pile here. I figured you guys would be mostly interested in Lebanon, but we do have Linn County stats, and they are different. And it's different from, the needs in Lebanon, Sweet Home, and Albany are vastly different. You get up into Sweet Home, they have transportation issues because people are having to get to the doctor and whatever it may be. So, but they are unique, and so, but I do think that's pretty, if you combine water, payment assistance, and electricity assistance, which I kind of group together, that and rental assistance is by and far, that's what people are struggling with here in Lebanon big time. So.
I agree. When we got this, I like the infographics. It's really easy to digest the information and understand what your guys are doing, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and this is a new program we started about 2.5 years ago. We actually we actually do for Linn County, but we also work with the Benton and Lincoln County too. So we got tri-county stats on that. So. Yeah.
No, well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. All right, and if anybody needs these, if schools or groups that need these for grant writing, like for example, Fish of Lebanon, we're making sure those people get these copies of this so that they can write their grants. I mean, obviously they can show that they're used and they're needed. So, and same with the schools. The schools have been very good about getting this information, because if you think of a teacher who's counseling a parent, all they have to do now is pick up the phone and, well, if your child needs counseling or you're having food issues, pick up the phone, and these are the resources you can get. So.
Have you guys done any online advertising of this?
Yeah, it's online. We've been mostly, thanks to Alex Paul, he's been getting us the newspaper pretty much every 3 months. So that and KGAL Show has been really excellent about getting that information out there. But mostly it's through the schools. The police departments have been really excellent about getting it out there, and so.
And Facebook, you guys have a good Facebook
Yeah,
presence.
Yeah, so it's been used a lot. We're seeing the numbers go, especially after this in the fall, we really started hitting the schools to make sure every school had it, and that's when we started seeing the calls increase, is this fall. And the city, like I said, the city of Lebanon, you go into that front office, there's posters, there's cards. And I left some cards here, but we also been working with the city, making sure there's prescription insurance cards out there. We have we've been doing free tax preps here in Lebanon. We had $1.3 million dollars brought back into this local Lake County community through our free tax return program, so very proud of some of the work we're doing. Most people think of it as just giving money to the Boys and Girls Club and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, but we do a little more than that, so.
Greg, this information is collected through using a software program?
Yeah, but see, these are all trained. What used to happen is when there was somebody needed help, they would call Fish of Lebanon, they didn't get what they wanted, then they'd maybe call the city, then they'd call 5 or 6 other people before they found all the services. Now this is a call center where when they call 211, it goes into a call center, they're asked their name, not their name, but they're asked their age, demographic information, and zip code. So that way, if it's a single mom of 2 next door here, they ask her what the zip code, and they say, okay, this is the first closest service, this is the second closest service that you're eligible for. They don't send you the programs you're not eligible for, which really frustrates people who just got out of work. We saw a lot of that with the mill closure in Albany, the big mill, is, a lot of people don't know how to navigate this, and this kind of cuts out the system. Well, they're getting all this demographic information, finding out what the needs are, and it also documents what the unmet needs are. So, because people who are asking for this energy assistance, most, like Fish of Albany, they run out of money, they can't give everybody who needs energy assistance, they just run out of money. So this documents what the unmet need is too. But it's all by zip code. I can do the same thing for SIO, Sweet Home, any place, so, or school district.
Any other questions for Greg? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Good job.
Okay, next up, we have the If I Were Mayor contest winners. And I wanted to read a little bit about this. I want to recognize the 2 student winners we had. We had 2 entries and 2 winners. Both students are receiving gift certificates signed by myself, a $50 gift card, and their entries will be sent to the state contest where they have the chance to win a brand new laptop. So it's kind of a cool deal for them. Maya Gallegos, I don't know if she here? Okay, hopefully I pronounced her name wrong. Gallegos, a 4th grader in Miss McGeeney's class at Hamilton Creek School. Maya's colorful poster outlines what she would do if she were mayor. Among them are making a homeless shelter, giving orphans new clothes, hold contests for prizes to see who can recycle more plastic and paper and clean up the country, and have carnivals to raise money for charity. Maya wants to make Oregon a better place for you and all of us. And we have the posters are right up there by the door if you want to take a look at those sometime tonight. And that was 4th and 6th through 6th grade. And then the winning essay for grades 7 and 8 is Riley Adams. Is Riley here?
I am right here.
Oh, okay. And he's an 8th grader in Miss Dickey's class at Pioneer School. And the first thing Riley writes about is people with no homes and a lack of jobs. As mayor, Riley would spend money to expand Lebanon and make more room for jobs and buildings. Another important issue Riley addresses is children on the street. Riley says, nowadays, too many kids are wandering around doing things they shouldn't do. Supporting a skate park would give teens a place to go and hang out with friends and have fun. Thank you, Riley. Good job. Do you want to come on up? Hi, Riley.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and I'd like to present this to you. Here, you put your hand up there.
Thank you.
Hold it up for the...
It's your opportunity.
Yeah, that's all right. All right. hold on to Maya's, and I'm sure Jamie will get that to her. Service award presentation. John Hitt. And do I have that? Do you have that? Is it in here?
This?
Hold on, John. I know.
This?
Quit stealing it, Floyd.
That's,
I was going to pawn it.
okay, very good. Thank you. Hi, John. This is presented to John Hitt with sincere appreciation for your outstanding commitment and dedication to this organization and the citizens of Lebanon from 5/15/2000 to 12/31/2013. And actually, we can throw a couple months in there at the end, but the official one will say 12/31. There you go. Congratulations. When we have a big meeting like this, things get kind of shuffled around. Okay, next up, public comments. The council welcomes all respectful comments regarding the city's business. Citizens may address the council by approaching the microphone, signing in, stating their name and address for the record. Each citizen is provided up to 5 minutes to provide comments to the council. The council may take additional 2 minutes to respond. The city clerk will accept and distribute written comments at a speaker's request, and I think we've gotten some handed out. And we'll have a timer here, and the light will be green for the first 4 minutes, and the last minute will go yellow, and then it will turn red, and then your time is up. Okay. Okay. First up is Patrick O'Malley.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here, a lot of you know me as an officer here in town, Sergeant O'Malley. I'm not here as Sergeant O'Malley tonight. I'm here representing our local association of Teamsters. I have a presentation. Dear citizens of Lebanon, Mayor Paul Aziz and the City of Lebanon City Council persons, it is the intent of this letter to ensure that you are aware of the state of morale of the Lebanon Police Department and to also make clear the positive changes we, our local association, supported by Teamsters Union 223, perceive in the last several months since Chief Frank Stevenson has taken command with the assistance of Captain Greg Burrows and Lieutenant Scott Bressler. As an employee of the Lebanon Police Department with over a decade of service and the president of this local association, I have witnessed this department under several different managers and chiefs. It has been my experience that a chief, as a standalone leader, must be a difficult and challenging position. In the last 4 years, we have seen each chief with different traits bring something different to that position. It has also been our experience as employees that many changes have been made in all the managerial positions. Some of these have become extremely publicized and, quite frankly, very scrutinized in certain forums and the public eye. In the last 6 months, we again saw a change when then Chief Ben Silverman resigned. Shortly prior to his resignation, another team of highly capable officers accepted management and leadership roles for our department in the form of acting in capacity, captain, and 2 lieutenants. Again, during this time, the public has unfortunately received mixed messages. As the president of this local association, I've had many members address me with concerns regarding possible misinformation that is being disseminated both to elected officials and the city we serve. Enough members have come forward that I've had no choice but to address the situation as a group. In accordance with our bylaws, a vote has recently been taken to address the concerns as a group in a letter of confidence. The vote was unanimous in favor of this letter. It is absolutely true that the Lebanon Police Department has been through some turbulent waters in the recent past, but our association has collectively asked me to bring insight to the situation. We have heard that morale of the police department has been low and needs improvement. That couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, through a series of conversations with our members, I can say that the morale of this department is better now than it has been in many years. We owe this in large part to Chief Frank Stevenson and his leadership team. Several members of our association, including myself, have watched as Frank Stevenson has grown over the years. We've watched as he moved through the ranks from patrol officer to an investigator in the detective division, to a leadership role of sergeant, to taking over the detective division as detective sergeant, to finally filling an administrative role, a position as lieutenant, to most recently becoming our commander as chief of police. Our association is made up of a majority of police officers, and members that are not certified officers sharing a unique understanding of the responsibility he must fill as a chief. To be the commander of a police department is in many ways similar to another organization's CEO, but it also has challenges and demands that are very unique to the law enforcement profession. We believe that Frank Stevenson, through his training both locally and federally at the FBI Academy, has been prepared to take on this task. We know that his character and moral fortitude have over the term of his career been tested and proven unshakable. We have heard the questions about his inexperience, and we strongly disagree. We have full confidence in his abilities, both as an administrator and as a servant of the citizens of Lebanon. In closing, I would like to say that we're not naive regarding the political reasons why the leaders of this community may wish or feel they need to go forward with a hiring process for the chief of police. But with that being said, we, the local association of Lebanon Teamsters 223, would like to go on record as the result of a unanimous vote that we have full confidence in Chief Frank Stevenson and the present captain and lieutenant, and that we would also like to make it clear that it would be our desire for the betterment of the community we serve to have these positions permanently filled by Chief Frank Stevenson, Captain Greg Burrows, and Lieutenant Scott Bressler. We believe that if this is the direction that the elected officials take, the morale of this department will continue to increase. This will be evident by the desire of others in the law enforcement community to be part of this organization, thereby continuing the professional commitment of service to our great city. And you'll see on the bottom of this letter that it's signed by myself as the president, Officer Travis Lutmer as the vice president, and Dayla Johnson as the secretary. This was a matter taken to our association as a whole a couple of weeks ago, and it was voted in unanimously. We support Frank Stevenson.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Pat.
Was there any counselor comments? Oh, hold on, please, 1 second before. Was there any counselor comments on that? Okay, thank you, Patrick.
I'm Norris D. Peterson. I was ready to sit down for supper, and I got a call about what's going on Berry Street. Can you tell me, or?
Grab this mic. You need to sit a little closer to the mic, please.
Did they hear my name?
I didn't get it, no.
Norris.
Norris D. Peterson. And I got a call to find out what's going on Berry Street. They're surveying and marking it, and people want to know.
Ron has.
I'm sorry.
Do you want Ron to address it?
Oh. Yeah, could you?
I can tell you, Berry Street, what's going on out there right now is we're actually, starting tonight, we're going to relocate a manhole and take a piece of failing sewer out of the highway in preparation for the highway paving job. Berry Street itself will get a new sewer, but it won't be sometime till later
Will
on
they
this summer.
resurface? You don't know, have no time.
Not at this time, no. We surveyed the whole thing, but
Okay.
at this time, we
They're
don't.
going to resurface the whole street?
Berry Street?
Yeah.
That's still to be
Okay.
determined, so.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Norris.
Yep.
Next, Bill Sullivan.
Oh, I have to cut this out. You know me too well. Bill Sullivan, live on Carolina Street. Anyway, last time I mentioned to you about some information on the veterans home out here that the city of Lebanon's getting suckered like we did in the Dalles. And I got you some information. My budget is like the city. There's 8 pages left that I didn't copy that they want you to sign your life away when you move in, if you're able to out here. I contacted the young lady in the Dalles about disability and et cetera, and she said the most that she'd heard of was $1,900 a month. So that drops you down to $2,700 a month if you're lucky enough to qualify. But she said to contact your local VA. So I went to Albany. They had no idea, hadn't heard about it or anything, so I took my full copy and they copied it. And they have no inkling what's going to be charged or anything about it yet. But like I mentioned before, the average vet is not going to be able to stay out here at this VA. And the new manager, temporary manager, I welcome you into the city. And I've got one question for you. How is your health?
So far, so good.
Good, because the last manager had amnesia. When he got his butt in trouble, he couldn't recall anything. So, but like I say, this VA deal out here, I was involved with one in the Dalles from the time it started till it was finished, and we got burnt. The city of Lebanon, Lynn County is going to get burnt, and it's going to be a rude awakening. That's it.
Thank you, Bill. Mary Ann Davenport.
I'm Mary Ann Davenport. Do you need my address?
We have it here.
Okay. I want you to know up front, I didn't know that Mr. O'Malley was going to be doing that, presenting that petition. But it coincides nicely with what I've been asked to say for months and been promising people I would talk to somebody. Several people a lot of people in my condo area. I'm on the condo board. And then pretty soon it seemed like their friends and relatives were all telling me how much they appreciated the help that we got for issues, dogs, you name it, everything. I could go to Kevin Buchheit or whoever, and they would come out and help us out with these things that were wonderful. And the main gist of what these people wanted to say was, under Chief Stevenson, this is working great, and let's not push it, let's stop right there. And that's what they're hoping you'll do, is keep Chief Stevenson. And that's what they wanted me to tell you.
Thanks, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Was there anybody else who would like to speak? Jay, go ahead.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Jay Burcham. We don't need to start that yet, do we, Paul?
You're on.
Okay.
I warned you.
Anyway, my address is 1635 27th Avenue Southwest in Albany at 97321. Have any of you folks heard of Honor Flight? Honor Flight, the movie? Mm-hmm. Many of you have. I would like to take the opportunity. Unfortunately, it's cutting into my time. But, okay. Would you pass this out to the people behind me too? Thank you. Thank you so much. But Honor Flight, the movie, is 83 minutes in length, and that 83 minutes is devoted to telling the story about taking a World War II veteran from the airport all the way to Washington, D.C., and showing them the World War II memorial. All expenses paid, red carpet. If a caregiver goes with them, that's out of their pocket. But the World War II veteran, their expenses are paid for. There are many World War II veterans that are physically unable to attend. And so a film crew put this together, and that's Honor Flight, the movie. And we have an opportunity to show that here in town at the River Center. And the River Center graciously is allowing us to show that May 25th at 1 p.m. That's a Saturday, and I know it's Memorial Day weekend. But I'm really hoping that this city will see the opportunity to salute these folks, that within 5 to 10 years, this generation will be gone, or close to it. And so what has been asked, what has been proposed here, is that the band from the high school would play patriotic tunes during this time outside when the veterans leave the facility. I know I'm getting jumbled up here, but I'm watching my green light, which is soon going to turn on me. But anyway, high school students are asked to attend. High school students are asked to create cards of gratitude, thanking vets for their service, for our freedom, for their sacrifices that have been made. Those cards will be personally given to World War II veterans. And again, it's a rare opportunity. The cost is $10 per person, but the $10 goes to Honor Flight. No one is making money on this. And this is something that I have a burden for. I've had the good fortune of having many World War II veterans in my life. Many have passed away now, but they have, it has been a real blessing. And as a tribute to them, I wanted to make sure that this was shown. But I need everyone in this leadership role to help me to get this taken care of. And what I mean by that is the American Legion is coming on board to help, to show the colors. John Friedel is coming with restored Jeeps, World War II Jeeps. Roseanne Hartness is coming alongside from the Lebanon School District. It's just amazing what's taking place. Flags will be out front of the River Center. American Legion, I already said the cards. If we could have people attend this and have the opportunity to fill that facility, it would be outstanding. What an opportunity to show our tribute to these folks, these elderly people that have served us in the past, and now we have an opportunity to show our appreciation. So I urge everyone, I have ample supplies of literature here. Please go to honorflightthemovie.com. You'll see a 4-minute trailer for this 83-minute movie. And again, I say 100% of the $10 will go to fund future Honor Flight tickets. This should not count on my time. I'm Mayor. Mayor,
That light,
please.
it's out. You're getting a pause.
But anyway, with all seriousness, how can that be? I do not live here. Okay, I do not live here. I'm not a resident here, but I'm getting more and more involved in this community, and Shelley Garrett back here in the very back row can testify to that, and in a positive way. But from an outsider looking at this city, there has been some difficulties. There has been some things that I have read. But I look at this, I have nothing to gain on this, but I look at this as something for this community, regardless of where you may fall on whatever issue or whatever might be in your rearview mirror. This is an opportunity to look through the windshield. And we can salute these people by bringing the community together to watch this movie, but also to be outside when it's time to be released. We ask the veterans to stay inside momentarily, let the public go out, and then the band play patriotic tunes. The colors have already been shown, and then when the vets come out, we applaud. And I am excited about this opportunity, but I need your help to fill this facility. I don't want it to be a BB in a boxcar that just went by me. So thank you for your patience, and if there's any questions, if you don't have time now, I will wait. But thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the project means it means a lot to me. My father turned 90 last year, and he's a World War II veteran. He served in the Pacific, and I'm going to make sure that he comes to this event, and we'll drag him there.
Oh, that's pretty
No,
cool.
it-
My
it-
dad has dementia. He will not be coming, but I want to be sure it's shown.
Good. Thank you
have
very
an
much for
idea-
your work on this. Appreciate it.
Thank
Do you
you.
have an idea as to how many World War II vets may be there?
That was asked of me the other day. I wish I had an answer. I don't know. If there's one, that'll be great. But I hope that many will be encouraged to come. I hope that people in this room will grab their neighbor, will grab their friend that is this elderly person, and bring them. Take the time to do it. Like I said, 5 to 10 years from now, you won't have this opportunity. We will not have this opportunity. But thank you.
Yeah, and I think the other point, too, that you mentioned to me before when we talked, was bringing the kids to this, too, the kids that don't understand the history and what these men did and women did for us.
Thank you for bringing that up. History classes will be asked to get those kids here to have that exposure. It's not just for World War II veterans, it's for all that have served and those, like we just talked about. All of us are welcome. But thank you.
Benefited, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
you.
Word of advice, to align yourself with Shelley around here will not do your reputation any good, Jay.
Was there any other public comments?
I'd just like to point out, I've recently gotten acquainted with Jay through the Toastmasters program here in Lebanon. Great program. And Jay, I just want you to know there were, I counted 8.
Stop right there. You want to explain what that was?
At our Toastmasters meetings, we practice giving speeches, and somebody always counts how many times we say or ah. The words. So I had to count for Jay since he's doing a public presentation.
Was
Right?
there any other public comments? Okay, we'll be moving on to the annexation and the public hearing. City Attorney Trey Kennedy.
All right, we're going to, the city council quasi-judicial hearing procedures are posted 2 places on the walls if you want to review those. The procedures are followed to make sure that everyone has a fair opportunity to present their case and that we follow Oregon law. At the commencement of the hearing, the councilors shall announce any ex parte conflict or conflicts of interest. Ex parte is contact with anyone outside the meeting or with the property itself. A conflict of interest is when a counselor or a member of the counselor's family stands to profit from the outcome of the decision. To begin with, we will have a staff report. The staff report will be presented, and it should include information which staff believes to be relevant to the identified criteria from the city's comprehensive plan or land use regulation which staff believes to be relevant to the issues. You can then have questions of the staff by the counselors. We'll then open it up to public testimony. The audience may provide oral or written testimony concerning issues that are relevant to the hearing. All testimony or evidence must be directed towards the criteria described in the staff report or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use regulation. Please note that failure to raise an issue, including a constitutional issues or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval, if any, accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the City Council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issues, precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals. All witnesses will be asked to sign in with their name and address at the podium. Please state your name before you begin your testimony. When we have the testimony of the witnesses, both the proponents and the opponents of the issue will be given an opportunity. The applicant has the burden of proof. The applicant will be provided rebuttal testimony limited to answering points of evidence raised by opponents. The proponents will go first. Generally, these witnesses will be led by the applicant, but all witnesses speaking in favor of the application will be allowed to provide testimony. We'll then have any witnesses in opposition to the application, and they are allowed to provide relevant testimony to show that the applicant has not sustained the applicant's burden of proof. And then we'll have rebuttal if necessary. We'll then close the public hearing. Once the public hearing is closed, it will be for deliberation by council only. No new evidence will be allowed. Discussion will be limited to the city council and staff. And as we open the hearing, I'd ask the mayor to ask for any ex parte contact or conflicts of interest.
The public hearing is open at 6:39 p.m., and I'd like to ask the city council if there's any ex parte conflicts of interest. Any?
None.
None with me either. Okay. Okay, we'll go with the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. Before I begin, I just want to be sure that you received your map, your air photo of the subject area. It's brought to our attention that the packet probably did not clearly identify the locations of the property. What you're looking at this evening is an annexation and an associated zone change. What's involved is approximately 5.45 acres of property. Most of it is on the east side of the Safeway, and there's a small parcel located on Mill Street, also the adjacent right-of-way on Mill Street. The Planning Commission conducted a hearing last April with regard to this particular application, and through the findings that are established and found in your packet, determined that the application met all the requirements for an annexation. Generally speaking, the land is located adjacent to the city limits. It is fully serviceable, is accessible by city transportation system or the street system, and there were no issues with regard to the actual annexation. As you are aware, with annexations, we establish a zone at the time of annexation. In this case, the one and only zone that may be associated with this property is the mixed-use zone. And that is part of the ordinance that's before you. One other note, as part of the application, there was an associated property line adjustment that was determined to meet all the requirements, that was done under a separate order and contingent upon City Council annexation of this particular property. Finally, we recognize that these are not fully developed properties. I'd just like to note for the record that any future development on this land, including potential vacation of Mill Street, will require public notice and likely additional hearings. So the only issue before you this evening is really the annexation and the establishment of the mixed-use zone. And with that is the recommendation of the Planning Commission that the City Council approve the annexation of the property and right-of-way, establishing the mixed-use zone on the subject property. And unless there's any questions, that is the staff report.
Okay. Any questions from the Council of Staff? I appreciate the map. That helped me to figure out where that was much better. I appreciate that. I thought it was a completely different part of town.
No, that's fine. And again, for the record, in the future, everything that goes before you with regard to planning will include zoning map, air photo, and also the assessor information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. We'd like to have testimony by proponents from the applicant at this point.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and councilors. My name is Brian Vendetta, address 63 East Ash Street, and I'm representing the owner, Mr. Walt Badger. So as Walt did explain, it is an annexation proposal. With the annexation comes a zone assignment. We've requested the same zone that the City of Lebanon's Development Code matrix assigns upon annexation, the mixed use. The annexation is adjacent to current city limits. All utilities can be or are available to the property. Access is available or can be made available to the property. The purpose for Mr. Badger annexing is to take advantage of the urbanized development code for a potential redevelopment of the property, in which case, as Mr. Wendelowski explained, it will come back before a public hearing for that review. We believe that the written submittal satisfies all the code requirements, and we accept all the conditions as proposed, and we would ask that you would vote in favor of this annexation. And if you've got any questions of me at this time, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
No questions?
No.
Okay.
All right,
thank you, Brian.
you.
Any other in favor of the annexation? Okay, seeing none. Any opposed to the annexation that would like to speak? Please come up.
My name is Dr. Misty McDowell, and I'm here on behalf of my father, Calvin McDowell, who resides at 2090 Mill Street, which is just adjacent to the 2070 Mill Street property that's up for annexation. This letter doesn't entirely pertain to the annexation itself, but there are some logistical issues we have concerns about for in the future, what this means with annexation. And so he asked me to present it. It's pretty much the same thing I presented the Planning Commission, but we wanted it to be here and on record. I have a copy of it if you can pass around. So I'm just going to read what he wrote, okay? I, Calvin McDowell, the property owner of 2090 Mill Street, have no objections to the proposed annexation of the proposed road frontages on Mill Street as outlined in the application per se, but my concerns are for the future and how this may affect access to and from my property and its driveway and the full use thereof after such annexations have occurred. My general concern is one in which the city vacates the section of road in front of 2070 Mill Street, which I know this isn't what's happening at this meeting, but and hands it over to the current owner or new one after annexation. This would make accessing my property via my driveway nearly impossible and would eliminate the ability to manipulate trailers in and out altogether. My driveway is right up against the north property line and thus would be boxed in by a square corner. My property is very small, being only 50 by 100 foot with a 50-foot road frontage. My driveway is very narrow and it cannot be moved or widened because of existing septic drain lines. Mill Street is also very narrow, being only 30 feet across. It is in my experience that you need the entire 90-foot length of the road for proper manipulation of vehicles in and out of my driveway. Mill Street surprisingly has a substantial amount of traffic from those who do not live here. Many times each day we have quite a bit of traffic that come down the street trying to get to Safeway or Badger Rentals. There must be an error on Google Maps. I don't know what it is, but it is the busiest little dead-end road you've ever seen in your life. And these vehicles, drivers, you drive down the road to its full length to the dead end before yielding to the fact that they're going to have to turn around and go back. They're going to end up in a big drainage ditch. And also, both police, city and county, do often come down and sit at the end of the street looking for offenders that have left Safeway and are heading toward Badger Rental and vice versa. It's a rather, it's an underdeveloped and I guess you would say tumultuous area. There's a lot of people there with criminal pasts, and we're a highway for if you have stolen something from Safeway or Walmart and want to get somewhere. So it's critical that that section of road stay functional to all of these uses as well. And so people can also attempt to turn around. My concerns about vacation of the road are well-founded from my experience, as the current owner has tried to claim it and say that it has been his property for many years. He had many times has bent over and tried to remove or hide the stake that marks the end of the road with his tractor, and indeed was doing that at the time of the initial Planning Commission meeting, just before that. So once again, myself or someone else will have to remove the brush and try to uncover it and bend it back. We have serious concerns about property lines, as the current owner has tried to claim that my driveway and garage are on his property from the time he purchased it, and it actually is quite the opposite. And it shows that on many of the city maps. And we've mentioned that to him from the very beginning. And so that before annexation, we're desperately requesting that somebody is on the ground and surveys, not just on maps. The property lines are not well delineated. And then I spoke with the county roadmaster, and he said that yes, that also needed to happen because it's just too confusing as to what's where. Also, it's important to note that it's a privately maintained road, so the residents of the street are responsible for its upkeep, and everyone shares equally in the cost of maintaining the road. So our question is if 2070 Mill Street and the road in front of it are annexed in the city, now who's going to pay for the upkeep of that portion of road, that end of the road? And then furthermore, in the future, with any development that happens at that end of the road, would there be an increase in traffic, and who's going to pay for that increase in traffic too? This is just a tiny little gravel road. So the road and its residents simply can't support more traffic, and we shouldn't have to pay for damage to the road caused by others. So we're saying, if the city goes ahead and annexes it, that there has to be something in place to provide for that, and to who's going to maintain it. So I guess, we're not really opposed to it, but, because we don't really have a leg to stand on, but we have serious concerns about, property usage, property lines, and, there's also this other little problem I had mentioned with the Planning Commission meeting, because of the way we're kind of chunking out, here's county, here's city, here's county, here's city, it's this weird bubbling going on. It creates a lot of problems when you call the police. It's terrible. You call and nobody knows who should respond. There's a lot of delays. Sometimes no one responds. Sometimes we get everybody responding. And since it is an area of conflict, I've had to call police many times. And so some sort of a plan needs to be in place, and I don't know how that's done. But, it's a problem. So I think that's it. And I said several times. I'm sorry.
I wasn't counting. You didn't pay your dues. You wasn't counting.
And I have a letter from Mr. Wendolowski, also saying that at this time this isn't about annexation, I know, and that there isn't any plans to, but of course that might happen in the future. So, anybody have any questions for me?
Only comment I would make is that I read the letter that Mr. Wendolowski replied to you from the Planning Commission. I would suggest that you look into the public process procedures for how to deal with land use questions.
Yeah.
Because all of those kind of questions that you're raising are pretty well defined.
Okay.
And, the city cannot tell an owner what they can or can't do with their property without
Absolutely.
outside the zoning rules that are predetermined.
Right.
So what the owner can choose to do is what they can do, provided they meet all the criteria that have been established. And same with your property.
Right.
So that will, whenever a development is proposed, then you'll have a lot better idea of what's being proposed and have some ground to address it. And at that point, right now, none of us know what could happen.
Right, absolutely. And I know you're just kind of following, hey, we have these guidelines right now. Does it fit these guidelines? We have to say okay.
Right.
So, but we figured we would go ahead and raise the concerns now and just to see what happens. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Was there any rebuttal by the applicant? Or any other opponents, I should say, first?
I had a quick question.
Yes.
I'd like to ask Mr. Wendolowski a question, if I could, before we close the testimony.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, my assumption, and I just don't see in the maps, but the smaller portion that's being annexed here, I'm assuming that has contiguity on some side with city limits?
Yes, it does, to the west, and also, in fact, directly to the north as well. Part of the Badger property is already within city
Oh, okay,
limits.
so that intermediate
Yes.
property, so this will just, okay.
Exactly.
Packages it.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay. Was there any other opponents that would like to speak against? Okay, now, is there any rebuttal from the applicant? No? Okay. And, close, okay. And at this point, at 6:53, we'll close the public hearing. And we'll have deliberation by the city council at this point. Questions, discussion?
Seems pretty straightforward to me. Having read through the Planning Commission's findings, they've covered the bases pretty thoroughly. I can't find any omissions, and I see no reason why we shouldn't approve this annexation.
Okay.
I agree. No, I thought it was well looked at by the Planning Commission. They are recommending it for, I guess, the adjacent property owners concerned. I would just encourage them to visit City Hall and talk to engineering and the city manager about the process and how the city will address annexed property once it's annexed. That might answer some of the questions.
Any other?
No, I agree. I think it meets the criteria.
Okay, and I do too, from Planning Commission experience, so. Okay, any other discussion? No further discussion. I'll have the city attorney read the bill.
A bill for an ordinance annexing and zoning property following consent filed with the City Council by landowners in said area pursuant to ORS 222.120 and ORS 222.170, File 12-09-46, Walt Badger and the City of Lebanon, Ordinance Bill Number 2013-1, Ordinance Number 2842.
Do I have any motion for the bill?
I move that the council approve ordinance bill number 2013-1, ordinance number 2842.
A second.
Okay, ordinance bill number 2013-1, ordinance number 2842. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance
We should have a roll call vote on this.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. City Clerk, please.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Grizzle?
Yes.
Counselor Reescamp?
Yes.
And Counselor Scott?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the ordinance passes. And we'll be skipping number 2, and we'll be going on to number 3, proposed water rate adjustment presented by Ron.
I'm going to push this back because it's really loud back there. Hopefully I don't blow anybody's eardrums out. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. What you have before you in this memo is kind of a summarization of our April 24th work session meeting where we discussed the various utilities that we have, water, wastewater, and storm drainage. This memo pertains to water. Basically, what we outlined was how we came about the rate increases, what they were going to be for. When we first started this back in about 2009, the City Council back then opted to go with 4 15% rate increases. This coming fiscal year was to be the last of those 15% rate increases. I think at that time we all I didn't look back through the record to see, but I think at that time we all looked at it and said, you know, once we get closer that last year, we'll come to you and basically give you what that last rate increase should be in order to fund the debt service for a new water treatment plant. When we discussed it at the April 24th work session, we talked about what staff saw in construction trends this time, or at this time, and basically what we're looking at is, you know, to get there maybe 10%, but not knowing, we gave council a list of options, and so the consensus at that time from the council was to bring back a 5% rate resolution or a 0%. You will notice I do have a 5% back there. I don't believe we need a resolution for 0. So it should also be noted that we do have time to raise the rates. It does not have to happen this year. There's ample time for us to get a little bit more information as to what the project's going to cost and go about that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding this.
Mr. Mayor, the only comment that I would, maybe it's even a question about to clarify my recollection, but my recollection was that Councilor Reescamp and I were the ones that said maybe we should go with the 5%, and that the consensus from the rest of the councilors was that we should go with the 0% raise this year. And so I felt that at that last meeting that Councilor Reescamp and I were in the minority on that question. So I just want to make sure that was that your recollection, or is that?
I was with the 5%.
Okay, my mistake.
My recollection is that it wasn't sure exactly how the vote would go, and so we'd bring it back and actually have something to vote on at the next one if somebody wanted to make a motion.
Yeah, I remember you being wrong.
You would.
Yes.
You know, I think I expressed at the work session that, you know, I'd love to see a 0 rate increase. However, should something happen in the economy and or the cost of construction, I would feel somewhat remiss if we then had to do a 10 or 15% to cover the needs for the construction. And that would seem to be more harmful to the citizens to do that than to do a smaller amount over 2 years. That's just my position.
Yeah, I just have a difficult time with a raise, with an increase, and not knowing why we're increasing. So we really don't. It's a put it there maybe in case we need it, and we may not need it, then we have this money. And I think you said last meeting where, you know, we have that money, it's going to get spent.
Right.
You know, and not necessarily for what we had intended it to be for.
Well, I'm sure it would be within the scope of that, but we will spend it, and I would feel better, you know, if we need it. I'm the first one that will make everybody angry to raise rates because we need it. I understand it's water is our first duty to provide to the citizens, water and safety. I just would feel better if we had hard numbers, because there's no reason that we have to do it today. There's no reason that we have to make a stab and say, well, let's raise it some so that it's not so painful later. I'm okay looking at somebody and saying, we were on track for a 15% rate increase. We held off until October, until we had hard numbers, and it turned out that it was 12. I'm okay with that because there was a chance it could have been 2. There was a chance it could have been 0. I just want some hard numbers so that when I'm speaking to somebody, I can say, well, we knew X. And I think what you presented before, it wasn't critical that we raise rates today as opposed to when we have a little bit more data to make a more educated decision. And
Correct.
so I'm at 0.
Although I'm not hearing that there's a very good chance it's going to be a 2% or 0%, that I heard you say there's a fairly good chance it would be around 10% next year.
Yeah, based on what we see with construction trends. And I mean, you know, it's a roll of the dice. I think it's going to be south of 15 unless something comes back, you know, that's beyond our control. But just based on what our information is and what kind of plant we're going to build, I think it's going to be somewhere south of there. How much, I don't know. I really don't.
I guess that, you know, years ago, when we didn't have a project going, there were a lot of years there was no increase. And then all of a sudden, playing catch-up, we would do a 10, say. Now, 10 sounds small today because we've been looking at 15. But I remember all of the people that I heard saying, what's this 10? I would have rather had 3 3s or 2 5s or something. But a 10 is a tough one on a fixed income. So I heard that loud and clear from a lot of people over the years. They don't say that now because we're hitting them with 15s. But I really think the message was well delivered, that if we even have a remote chance, and it sounds like a fairly educated chance at a 10, I would like to see 2 5s. Now, if you're wrong and it's an 8, I'd rather do a 5 and a 3. Personally, because what I heard the people saying was, and it's the people that can least afford it, that 2 5s a lot better than 1 10.
I hear you. I'm 20% with you. I hear that, and I will feel bad at 12% all at once when we could have done a 5 and a 7 in hindsight. And I think we should, you know, and I think from here forward we have scheduled, you know, some increases every year to keep up with the system, like in a responsible fashion. I think we should do that. We just don't know what that looks like yet because we don't have a system yet. So, I do get that. I will feel bad having opposed, you know, a 5 to soften that blow, but it isn't. It could be just a few months. It could be another year. It could be, you know, we don't know. We don't know what the impact of zero now.
I would say that you would be looking at. We wouldn't probably be coming back to this body with a rate proposal of any kind until at least, I would say, at least a year from now. So in the meantime, we won't have those numbers. I don't look to have a consultant on board for this until July. And as big a project as this is, it's going to take some time to put all those numbers together to where we're confident in coming to you with that number and what that number will be.
A 5% today might make next year's 12% 7? Or does a 5% today get spent and next year, you understand what I'm saying? Does that equate? Because that's a lot of revenue between now and next year.
Yeah, the cash that you pull from the rate, so if basically it's going to a debt service, is what it's going to. So as soon as you sell that bond, that's when that money gets spent. Now, in the meantime, we've used some of the rates to pay for big water line projects that have been scheduled. We're using it for design for the Fifth Street water line, or the Fifth Street Reservoir project. So we are using that money as it's accumulating, but as soon as you pull the trigger on the bond, then that money that we've generated from the rates goes to pay the debt service on that. So that money, to say it's being spent, yeah, it is, but it's still there. I mean, it's still counted in the, we don't spend it as cash and then say, well, we need more because we can't afford the debt service, because that's a year over year, and then the debt service gets paid from that. It will get spent. Obviously, we've got $6 million worth of water line needs out there, but it could be also allocated towards the treatment plant, towards the East Grant Street Reservoir. I mean, how that cash is spent, we put that in the budget. Does that kind of help?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
You know, 3 years ago, when we implemented the rate increase, had we used the scenario that's being talked about, well, we don't know where that money's going to be spent, or we don't know what the cost is going to be, so we'll just wait till we get that information, and then we'll hit them with 45, 50% increase. That's what you're saying.
No. I don't believe that is what I'm saying.
Have
Because
we-
we're very close, and we have raised quite a bit of funds. And if the staff recommendation would have been at our work session, if staff recommendation would have been, you know, we're going to need this, and I think it's in the long run best interest of the citizens but really I felt like staff came to say, we don't know how much more we need. We're real close. We have raised a lot of money, and I don't feel like I didn't get the message from you that it would be a detriment to us to wait until we had a little bit more information. It wasn't going to be a deal breaker for this project. I would never hold the project up or long-term harm the citizens or keep the project up. So.
Right. No, it's basically what I think when we were talking about that, we talked about getting an idea of what those construction costs would be so that we can do the bond sale so we know where we're at. You know, we're starting to look at other things. We may have some more SDC funds available to put towards that. You know, what's the impacts of the Northwest Urban Renewal District and how much money it's put towards it. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to balance here, and our quasi-recommendation, I guess, because we think we're going to have some more at some point, was to let us see what that is. And you do have time to do that. Like I said, it'd probably be a year at least before we were back in a position where we had an idea of what that would be.
So Rebecca? At great personal risk, I'm probably going to have to back up and say I probably agree with you a little bit.
What? Is your mic working?
It really is. I think given the fact that we have seen very significant increases in rates in the very recent past, given the fact that we really aren't sure what we need, and the fact that there is a very strong public interest in zero increases, that all things being together, it probably would be the wisest just to hold off, maybe even take a look at it in 6 months and see what we learn, just to kind of meter it out. Given the current public view, maybe we should just give this some space for the moment. And Wayne, I hear your point as well. I'm not.
John?
Well, I was just going to offer an outsider, a new person perspective, and that is the admiration and the gumption that it's taken for the city council to ramp the rates up over the last several years to meet what Ron described as the necessary capacity to make debt service payments. You've done that based upon a preliminary design that came from all my friends in engineering that sometimes have contingencies on contingencies at the preliminary design stage. And so I think you've ramped up rates very well at that preliminary design stage. And now you're getting into a more refined design stage, and you will have 1.5 to 2 more opportunities just in your normal course of talking rates to put those finishing touches on what the rates need to be for a final debt service after you get a real, a firmer project number. So if you're wondering how the city of Lebanon has done in comparison to how other projects generally get through, knowing there's some tough political decisions on ramping rates up, you've done a wonderful job. If you pause now and look at a 0% increase and need to look at more increases in the future, you have time. I mean, you really do, from my perspective, as somebody new looking at it pretty fresh.
Well, we also have already said that we're going to be looking at annual rate increases going forward. You know, we could build this in, the kind of an increase we're talking about, we could build this into stretches of an inflationary rate increase. You know, if we need, if inflation's 2%, we could go 3% for 3-4 years. You know, we could work our way into this without it being another big hit.
Yeah, I would hope we wouldn't make the mistake we made previous years of that.
No, absolutely. I think we need to make sure we keep a good eyeball on this thing, but.
Right. I do understand what you're saying too, Wayne. I just think you're wrong.
Well,
welcome to the club, Wayne.
You know, I love to hit home runs, and I think this is like hitting a home run, and then after a few months or a year, you're behind in the ball game. That home run didn't do you any good. But I would support certainly the majority of this council. I understand your position and your thoughts, because it'll look really good to the citizens until we have to hammer them with a big number, if it were to happen.
Right. And I think
I will say, I told you so.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so much for being wrong.
I couldn't have said it better.
The thing to keep in mind is the original thought process was for 15% rate increases. So I think staff has always had it in their mind to refine this as we go, and we're continuing to refine it. I mean, we're tracking rates month over month, sometimes week over week, just so that we're trying to get a feel of where we're going to land, make sure we have enough for debt service, and also maintain a capital fund that's not too big, but yet can support what we're supposed to be doing here, and that's providing water service to folks. So that's what we're looking at for this. And, you know, Councilor Rieskamp, we will bring column cost of living or inflationary rate increases back so that we don't get into that position. In fact, our next topic of discussion is for that. So
I want to go on record saying I don't give a rat's fat fanny what's politically popular. The worst thing in my life would be not getting reelected because I raised water rates. So, yeah, that is completely. I'm completely unmotivated by that. It just doesn't feel right now.
Well, and I appreciate what you're saying, because I've seen, Rebecca, I've seen you make the tough decisions in the past, and I know that you're not politically motivated in doing so. But I'm going to have a real hard time next year at a 10%, if that's what it becomes. And I hope, you know, I think the people of this town would recognize that those of us who are in favor of a 5% now, it's not because we're not money grubbers, we're not trying to just fill some bins of money. We're trying to do it in a fair way to get to a same end. I mean, that's my motivation. So I suppose it could be twisted any way it wanted to look by the public, and I know they're always incredibly fair to everything we do. But that's my motivation, but I'm not going to stand in the way of a zero. It's just going to make me,
Nervous.
it's far from what I think is the best.
Well, Councilor Fisher, let me respond briefly to you. You know, as a relative newbie here on the council, I've just got to tell you one of the things that I've appreciated the most is the spirit of this dialogue, that we can see things differently and disagree. And I don't think anybody, certainly nobody around this table, is going to look at somebody like yourself with a difference of opinion and pretend like you're money grubbing and
yeah.
That's just not there. It's a difference of opinion, and that's what it is. And it's not even that strong. It is we're not way far here.
Right.
And we're making judgments here, and you got to make a judgment. And you know, I would encourage you, if you feel that way, vote no if that's what it comes down to, and it's it doesn't have to be a unanimous vote on everything.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would make a motion that we not do a rate increase for this coming year.
Seconded.
Let's meet at a later date.
If I could just do a procedural, I think the motion would be to table resolution number 2013-15. Ron, if we have no action, we end up with zero, right?
Yes, correct.
So if we wanted to table the proposed resolution, that would mean that we won't have, would be the equivalent of a motion for a zero. Did you understand that, Wayne?
Yes.
Okay.
So I would move that we table
Okay.
the issue.
Okay, it's been, is there a second?
I seconded it a while ago. I'll do it
Okay.
again.
It's been moved and seconded to table the proposed water rate adjustment. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes.
Just one other side note, your budgets that were handed out to you from Dean, they all reflect a 10% water rate increase. So
Now you bring that up?
well, we can adjust that. Actually, Dean's real good at adjusting that, but it's a very simple, and we can cover that in the budget committee. I just didn't want you to.
Well, isn't this something that if we're passing a zero rate increase right now, but if we see that we've got problems in the future that we need more money, can't we come back to the council and redo it?
Anytime.
Okay.
That makes sense to me. Okay, thank you, Ron. And number 4, proposed stormwater rate adjustment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back again to our work session that we held on the 24th. We talked about the different utilities. This one pertains to storm drainage. Back in 2010, the council authorized the creation of a storm drainage utility fund. What that was put together for was for cleaning, maintaining, minor repair, and to build a capital aspect of it at a future date. And we're building a small capital aspect of it. We're using it to supplement other projects and whatnot. And along with that, we have one of the pieces of the resolution was that we'd come back every year with an adjustment as far as what the CCI index was. And this year, the CCI was 2.3%, and we're recommending that we do the inflationary index increase in the storm drainage fund, since it's a small fund, but yet it serves a very good purpose, and we want to make sure that we continue the health of this fund. So it's 2.3 is what we're recommending for this year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about that.
As far as I'm concerned, the 2.3 inflationary increase is well within the spirit of what we've always discussed, and I think it's just fine.
Okay.
I agree.
I have no problem with it.
All right.
Okay.
May I read the resolution?
Sure.
Resolution adopting the City of Lebanon stormwater drainage utility rates, resolution number 2013-16.
Do I have a motion?
I would have
Move that the council approve resolution number 2013-16.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2013-16. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Oh, I'm going to need to do a roll call, please.
Yes.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
Counselor Scott?
Yes.
Counselor Reese-Camp?
Yes.
And Counselor Griswold?
Yes.
The resolution passes. Airport Road Traffic Signal Study Update by Ron again.
Yeah, looks like I'm stuck up here. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. At the March 13th City Council meeting, there was several complaints. I think there was one, and then also Councilor Bullen had called and asked us to look into this at some point and asked some questions about the intersection. So at the March 13th council meeting, we had a little discussion about this, and council asked that we spend a little bit of time, not a great amount of time, basically doing a study, in-house study of the traffic patterns and whatnot on Airport Road at the intersections of 5th and 7th Street. You can see, basically, it's a pretty vague memo in the sense that there's not a lot of traffic data with it. I had one of our staff members go out on the 2nd and 4th of April, both in the peak AM and peak PM hours. He did manual counts because our tube counter wasn't working, so he did manual counts and checked some delays. And basically, the consensus when he came back and we compared it to what the 2003 study was actually not any worse, and in some cases better, as far as the delay at the intersection and as far as the amount of traffic going through the intersection. And I attribute that mostly to the left turn lane that was put in at 5th Street and Airport Road, and then also the widening there at Highway 20 and Airport Road. So once we saw that, we didn't actually spend any more time looking at 7th and Airport. We just kind of looked at this as the main one. Some of the delays that he saw were mostly driver-related delays. In other words, he felt that the driver probably spent too much time, how you look this way and look that way, and then it was too late to go. And most of those ranged in the neighborhood of 18 to 22 seconds, which we don't even start considering them delays until about 30 seconds. So our recommendation to council was to not do any further study at this time. We'll monitor it, keep it in mind. Obviously, if we're directed so, we will definitely do that, but that would be our recommendation at this time. Now I can answer any questions.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob, anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, at that point, thank you very much for your guys' work on that.
Ron, I have a question
Yes, sir.
unrelated to that, but about the same time that we asked you to look at that, the ODOT had traffic counters all over this county.
Yes.
What was the deal on that?
I'm going to take a guess that was for a transportation planning thing that they're doing a regional TSP, and I'm going to guess that that's what it's for. We were never informed of that, so. And it's probably a good time to inform this body of the paving that's going to start Monday night. I'm sure you've all received the notices. We attended the pre-construction meeting yesterday, and it's going to be wild. They're going to come through. So contacts for that, city contacts will be myself and Jason Williams. We'll be in and out with them at night at times. So if anybody has questions, complaints, or whatnot, please forward them to us, and we'll try and help them through that.
I did read they're going to start south and move
Actually,
north.
they're going to start at Taco Time,
Okay.
and then they'll take that all out there, and then they'll come back and go through the north end of town. Myself and Jason and Frank attended that pre-construction meeting.
Okay.
We figured if we had to get Frank out of bed, something bad went wrong.
Okay. We're going to take a 10-minute recess.
Oh, thank God.
Woke up at 12:30 last night.
Call the meeting to order.
Charlie horse right underneath it. You rang?
Dean Baugh. Number 6, approval of a $12 million bond.
Where are we? Number 6? Okay. Dean Baugh, yeah. And that goes with this. Oh, boy.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is the next step in the progress towards a $12 million bond that we want to issue in July. This is for the Northwest URD. This resolution does 4 different things. If you saw the first agenda for tonight, we also had an agenda item for a line of credit. Well, when the bond attorney wrote up the resolution, you'll notice this is for the new money for $12 million. This also is for the possibility of refinancing 2 other additional bonds at the same time. And then on page 2, right towards the top, it's also authorizes the interim financing. And what we're working on is like a $3 million line of credit. And what that would be, that we'll put that in place because there's a possibility that some of the contracts that have been issued already will want payment in June before the bond is actually issued. And then when the bond's issued, the interim finance is paid off and it all rolls into the bond. So that's a short-term financing. We're hoping we won't have that, but it's there available, so we make sure we can pay our contractors on time. So I've given you a list of the contracts that are the proposed projects that are out there that Ron has given us. So that's the staff report. This is for four different items, 1 new money, 2 refinancing, and 1 line of credit on the, which you should, and the bond is still due to be issued in like the 3rd of July. Is there any questions?
Yeah, I'm probably going to have one. I'm trying to figure out how to ask it.
Yes, sir.
So was I.
Those are the scary ones.
I have just a real quick one.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the front page on the original memo, it's got 20044. Was that supposed to be 2004, or is that the series number of the bond? It says the 1.990 and then 1.910, remaining balance of the 20044.
I can lie to you and say that was a series, but no, that's supposed to be a date. It's 2004.
Thank you. Got kind of wild on the numbers there.
Dean, my question, and the intergovernmental agreement, probably the answer to my question, but the URD and the City of Lebanon are 2 separate entities.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the City of Lebanon is standing behind the obligation of this bond.
Correct. We're making it a full faith and credit bond. We get lower rates that
Can
way.
you help me understand the relationship between those entities in terms of how one entity is, in effect, guaranteeing another entity's obligation?
So what we're doing is we're issuing full faith and credit, means that if tomorrow the Northwest URD went away, the City of Lebanon is on the hook for this bond. If something were to happen, it just disappears. But then what we're following up with is we're doing an intergovernmental agreement with the Northwest URD, and they're pledging their funds to pay the debt. So each year, they're in a sense, the Northwest URD will pay the debt.
So it's all the language aside, the City of Lebanon is simply guaranteeing this debt.
Correct. But by doing a full faith and credit, we'll get lower interest rates
Well, I
in
understand
the
that
long
concept.
run.
That part I get. I just want to understand the relationship between the entities.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. A lot of the other debt we do, like when we do the water bonds, usually we do those as revenue bonds. And if something were to happen and the water fund just doesn't have the money, the only money that's there to pay those is what's in water or sewer when you just look at those kind of debt. But this kind of debt, we're pledging the full faith and credit of the city up to 100% of our taxes to pay this debt if need be.
This resolution, this part that we have here, that's it's got the little red for agenda item, that was added just tonight, right?
Yes.
Is there any reason that wasn't done a little earlier so we could have read that?
It's because I didn't get it from the bond attorney. They were still trying to get it done out there, and they got it to me after the agenda was already put out.
Okay. It's just kind of a large document to get the night of the reading. For us non-attorneys.
And actually, that was going to be my question. I know that you're using Mercer O'Shannon, and they're walking through each of these steps with you, right? You're working with them?
Yes, with Jim and Courtney.
You had.
And we've used this company for, I think, pretty much for every other bond the city's done. We've used them on every other bond we've done. So you've probably seen, well, you guys have not seen it because you're new, but this same document was at each bond we've done. So it's most of it's pretty standard language. You know, like I said, except normally we just have new money. Here we're doing 2 renewals and an interim financing all in the same document.
Yeah, and I wasn't suggesting, one, I don't want to do it, I don't have the knowledge to do it, and 2, I do know that they are extremely competent and well-respected in their fields.
Yes, they do really good.
To my knowledge, they've been doing it for at least 25 years for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the two bonds we did in 2010, the two renewals, they did both of those also. The one for the Northwest URD and one for a wastewater bond.
Any other questions of staff?
Dean, I assume then that they didn't advise us that we needed to approve anything as convening as the URD? This is just the city saying we can use the full faith and credit?
Right. And, because I did ask that question, and they determined that URD does not need to pass anything for the bond, since it is the city that's issuing the bond. All the URD agency will have to do is the intergovernmental agreement to pledge their funds.
Okay. Would you like to read the resolution?
I would like to advise them that they need to draft shorter titles to their resolution, just so. I'm going to try to do it in one breath. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
A resolution authorizing the issuance and negotiated sale of full faith and credit and refunding obligations for the purpose of financing capital improvements and refunding certain outstanding obligations of the city, authorizing interim financing, designating an authorized representative, underwriter, and special counsel, authorizing execution and delivery of a financing agreement, an escrow agreement, and interim financing agreement, authorizing intergovernmental agreement with the City of Lebanon Urban Renewal Agency and related matters, resolution number 2013-17.
Excellent. Thank you. Whoa. That was great. We'll just call it Resolution 2013-7 for 17 for our needs here.
I move to approve Resolution number 2013-17.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution number 2013-17. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Grizzle?
Yes.
Counselor Reeskamp?
Yes.
Counselor Scott?
Aye.
Counselor Fisher?
Yes.
And Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
The motion passes. The resolution passes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
and maybe this is a question for Mr. Kennedy, but will we need to convene as the URD authority to adopt the intergovernmental agreement pertaining to this bond?
Yes.
And is that
But
going
not
to be,
the
that's not on tonight's
resolution.
agenda?
No.
When will that occur?
Well, the timing, I would defer to Dean.
That would probably be in June,
Okay,
when they'll do the next part.
okay.
You'll get a crash course in convening in both when you go through the budget process, so.
Yeah. Back and forth.
In and out. Okay, number 7, Dean, utility collections procedures.
Okay. So at the last meeting, the council asked us to come back with an alternate proposal for collection procedures. John went back and he brought some information from Corvallis, and we've looked at all this, and so we're supposed to bring something back for discussion. You wanted to bring something back that you could put on to the next council meeting to get public comment. So in here is kind of what our proposal is. It's a different proposal. What this does, it still gets the bills out on the 1st. They're still due on the 15th, but instead of sending out delinquent notices 2 to 3 days later, we're given a 5-day grace period. And then after that, we're discontinuing door hangers with this. Door hangers will be gone. There'll be a message on the next bill, and the message is on here saying, you know, that your past due account is not paid, you know, unless you've made alternate payment arrangements and have made your service will be disconnected on, and we'll put a date in there each month without any further notice. So their door hanger basically is their next bill. So they'll get the bill, there'll be a message on there saying, you haven't paid, you have a delinquent account, if it's not paid by this date, service will be discontinued. I saw the way Corvallis did it, and we'll probably word the final one that way. It says, anytime after the 5th of the month. That way we have leeway, and so if the 5th is a weekend, we can do it on the 6th. If for some reason we can change the date, so it'll be the 5th and after, then service can be disconnected without payment. And there would be no more, so we wouldn't have your door hanger, you get your next bill, and then by the whatever date we put on there, you'd be disconnected.
So how much does that lengthen the process? I was trying to, I'm not the sharpest pencil in the drawer, and I was trying to understand this. So today, I get my bill, and by the time I get my next bill, this one I haven't paid, by the time I get my next bill, I'm probably 2 days away from a door hanger, and I'm probably a week from shut off, or,
No, in this one,
no, today.
in the current one, by the time you get your next bill, you already have your delinquent notice, and we're pretty much processing door hangers and the
shut
next
off.
bill at the same time, or door hangers. So then a week after you get your next bill, you'd be shut off, pretty much.
Right. So,
So by the end of the month, you would have been shut off. So this is basically lengthened it 5 to 10 days, into the next month.
And eliminates the door hanger.
It eliminates the door hanger fee. But, and I did put in here to, throwing out a thing, to change the delinquent fee. Right now, when we send out the notices for a delinquent fee, it's a flat $10. What we're looking at is saying, reduce that to $5 plus a percentage. And the reason I want to look at that is, we have a lot of big property owners who just say, $10, I don't care, I'm just going to pay. And their bill's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, and sometimes they wouldn't pay till we're ready to shut them off. And some of those are apartment buildings in different places, so this way, if they would say, oh, well, now it's $100, it's $5 plus 5% of my bill or 3% of my bill. And what I want to look at, 5% may not be the right number. We may say it's 3. I want to make sure that for the small person, it's not more than $10 still on an average bill. So, because I don't want people to say, you changed this, but now my penalty is $15 when I would have paid 10. No, we want to get it down so the penalty is still around 10 for the average user. For the big user, it would be more. And so that's in this idea too.
And actually, it would be $25 if someone was going to get a door hanger. They would save that, so they're not going to get that extra $15
They're not going to get
for
that $15. Right.
which is reasonable.
but still, by the time you get your next bill,
Right.
assuming the first one is just misplaced, by the time you get your next bill, you're still very close to being shut off. Now I don't have a door hanger. I'm just very close to being shut off. I mean, it didn't lengthen the time very much. It seemed like we really shortened the time when we got more aggressive. I don't know how, maybe that's just my perception.
What was it before the change, do you remember? As far as time of from getting shut off?
Way back there. I think you got your bill on the 1st, it was due on the 15th, they sent you your delinquent notice, it was like right after the beginning of the next month.
Right, when you were getting ready to get your next
Right.
bill.
Well, after you got your next bill, you got a delinquent notice, because the bills come out the 1st, and then as soon as they finished processing bills, they did delinquent notices for the month before. And then I think they waited, you were basically shut off the end of the next month. I think shut-offs were around the 20th or 25th of the next month. So I think after you got your delinquent notice the first week, then you had another 5 to 8 days before they did shut-offs. But in that one, they did door hangers, and then like 2 days later, you were shut off. I mean, there was no time between them. It was almost immediate.
Reemphasize too, that the direction that we heard from you was to come back with an option that we could then push out and get some community feedback for you to consider at a future meeting. So we're not asking for a decision tonight, other than is this a good enough product to take out to the citizens for feedback.
Yeah, is this what we want to post on our website and Facebook and ask for feedback?
Yeah.
And bring back to the next council meeting and ask for public hearing on it.
Mr. Gilson, I'm just curious, you've had some experience, for example, in Corvallis. How would Corvallis handle a situation like this? What's some other experience? What kind of thing?
You want your note?
It's got a copy of the notes.
I had this note right here saying how Corvallis did it.
The biggest difference, and Dean and I talked about it, and I do think some utilities, frankly, bill up front for their services, and cities bill a month after the fact. So you're getting a bill for your last month's usage.
Mm-hmm.
And then Corvallis doesn't do the extra, what I told Dean was a nice customer service feature in Lebanon, and that was to send a notice out that you're delinquent and you need to make pay arrangements. What Corvallis does, in my recollection, is just put that delinquency notice for last month on the next, for last month's bill, on the next month's bill, so they save that extra billing, and that also can tend to lead to people, frankly, discarding that next month's bill as they did with the first month. So certainly the feature of an extra notice works well here.
Would you say that Corvallis has because of that, has a lower collection or a higher cutoff rate or delinquency rate, or?
It's not a good comparable because of frankly, the students
demographics.
And the amount of turnover and the opportunity to not pay the bill and leave town. A lot of different debates over whether to make the property owner pay for all of the water bills versus the tenants, so it gets really, really messy.
Actually, Corvallis isn't a very good comparison because of the college kids.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I would say this proposal merits, it's pretty good customer service, and it merits some feedback for you to consider before making the change.
Dean, I have a question around the delinquency proposal and the $5 and the 5%. Can you give some thought to whether that could be addressed to residential and, I guess, single-family or multi-family residents? The apartments, I mean, you
mean
brought up
a
that
different
subject.
penalty for each one?
No, so that they know, I guess they would know based on their billing, that if there's a huge apartment complex over here that has a 2,000, they're going to get 5% of 2,000.
And what I would recommend is, once we decide to do this, that we would take at least 2 months to send out letters, notices, saying, because like I said, there's a lot of people who say, I didn't get my door hanger, or I wait for my door hanger. Well, they're not going to get that anymore. It's going to go right to bill and shut off. So we need to get a lot of notices out, put bright red things or bright colored things in the bills, and pay a little bit extra money to get flyers in there, and whatever we need to get it out there, that this process has changed. You'll no longer see the yellow door hangers. Here's what's happening. But take at least 2 months before we actually say, now it started.
I guess what I'm not seeing here is clarity between the billing. Is the single-family resident going to have the same $5, 5% as the multifamily?
Yes. The way the program is once we do delinquents, I believe we can only put one set of penalties in there, I think. I'd have to check. But I think we just set up a penalty code and we just charge it. So it would be $5 or, that's what I was saying. I want to look at the 5% number, and it may be that that's really a 3% number, because I want an average resident to pay no more than the $10 fee. I don't want them to say, all of a sudden, we change our process and we're getting a higher fee on them.
So the
That I don't want to
5%
do.
does apply to the single-family
Yes,
resident?
it would be for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question I
Because
have,
right now, everybody pays $10.
Yes.
And so what I'm trying to do is lower the one fee, but put a percentage that will keep them around $10 or less for the average user.
But a single-family has a $200, $250 water bill, then that 5%, then the 5 is going to exceed $10.
If they use a lot of water, yes. But now, if they have a $200 bill, it's only on the delinquent part gets the fee. So, when they get their second bill and we've charged them a fee, there's going to be 2 months' worth on there. So it's only going to be on the delinquent part that the fee goes.
Yeah, but if that's $250, if the delinquent part is $250,
then it's going to be higher than $10.
Yeah, I don't see how you can manage that at all.
Yeah. So
keep it at $10. You'd have a percentages that.
I know. That's something I have to figure out a percentage for the average user. Maybe we figure out 3% on somebody who has a $120 bill. Figure 3% on that, whatever that is. Keep that under 10. Then if your bill's only 80, then you only pay $6. But if your bill's 120, you pay 10. Pick something like that at a number.
I'd like to question the value of a late fee at all. If we're going to cut the water off about 5 to 6 weeks after the bill is due, and we're not talking about them, but there are some disconnect, reconnect fees, you know, they're not going to get more than 5 or 6 weeks behind because we're going to cut the water off. And there's enough penalty involved in disconnecting. The worst case that can happen to the city is that we can start collecting some of our revenue 5 or 6 weeks late. So the question to me is the value of the fee, is it simply punitive? I mean, you know, and is there value to us as a community in punishing people for this kind of a thing? We've got our water rates jacked up real high already. This is, to me, it just seemed to make sense, just forget the late fee and say, we're going to cut it off, and we'll send a notice and be done with it.
Was the late fee originally for labor? Is there some labor involved in dealing with notices?
Part of it was for the labor of sending out notices, yes.
Okay.
I don't feel like I know what the labor cost really is, you know.
I'm okay with the late fee. I think there is labor involved in managing habitually, especially late accounts, and you know they are habitual, and you have to have maybe an extra staff member. I mean, it's hard to quantify. It's very difficult to quantify what does it cost for somebody to overdraft a check.
But my question is, why is there labor? Why, in other words, why spend labor on it? We just tell them right up front, we're going to cut it off in 6 weeks, and, you know, we'll send them a notice in the next bill. You know, we can probably automate that, and, you know.
On this day, you're going to be cut off.
Yeah, if we're telling people they need to be responsible, you know, why are we going through all these hoops worrying about these habitual people being late? Just cut them off. When they run out of water, they'll call back and they'll have to pay their connect fees and get back and going. But
Isn't there a cost to the mailing also? There's that mailing of the late fee, of the late bill?
I suggest we don't even send a late notice. Just send it with the next bill.
Oh, I see.
What you're wanting to do, Garrett, or Barry, is eliminate the delinquent notice and the door hangers, is that right?
Yeah, I would.
Yes.
I'm suggesting, you know, we take a good look at limiting the delinquent notice, you know, the next month's bill, you know, and I have to understand more about how the processing goes, but can that be automated, just to, you know, a red flag in there, you know, the ones that are late get a pink slip instead of a blue one, and, you know, I just don't know. I mean, but it's a one-time deal once a month, and it's semi-automated, and we just do it, and then a week and a half later, we cut them off.
If you want to automate where like a delinquent notice has some other piece of paper in it, the folks we used to do our mailing, if we put an extra slip in there, they're going to charge us for that. So again.
Well, but my question, and I don't feel like I have the data, is how much labor are we spending sending a notice? What's the cost involved? How much, you know, what are we talking about in terms of dollars and the revenue for the $10 fee or whatever it is coming back? Are we just trying to stick it to somebody and slap their hands with the fee, or are we really trying to cover costs? And I don't feel like I have a sense of that picture.
I think there is a value to a punitive fee. I mean, not to stick it to somebody. I don't like that characterization, but I think you know, somebody who's deciding to pay their bills pays with a definite. Especially if you have limited funds, you prioritize, and sometimes a fee helps you prioritize. And not, I don't know.
Well, but that's my point, is that they're going to get a fee. The worst case, under what I'm suggesting, is that we get paid 6 weeks late. That's the worst case. And at the rates we can invest money at what? We probably can't invest our money at 5% a year. So 6 weeks, you know, we're for you know, 3 to 5% of our customers, if that. The amount of money is negligible in the scheme of things, and you know.
I guess part of it too is a perception issue in terms of a fairness for those that do pay on time, and you want to encourage that behavior. And if they look around and see the habitual late payers, and for us that would grow in terms of people finding out that there's no consequences whether it's 5 or 10 or a percentage, then you would see creep in the people's payment habit, and you'd also see the perception from some good customers or consistent paying customers that the system isn't fair. So you may be tugged back into another debate on it.
That's a good point.
I'm just trying to respond to the public sentiment that water is idiotically expensive in this town.
Well, and I think a $10 fee is not why water is idiotically expensive right now.
I'm saying that the whole package here.
I would love to have a well-publicized conversation with people's input on this, what we're talking about right now.
So that's what we're looking for. Is this what you like to take to them, or is there some other way you want to reorganize for when we put it out?
Well, I'm okay with you saying this is proposed, but we're open to tweaking it. We'd like your input. Because it's not this or nothing. If you can say this is what we're considering.
Or if you presented two different proposals, we're considering a couple of options, and maybe we get a bunch of feedback, say, people say, that's not fair, we pay our bills on time. And then you'd know.
Well, I think you can guarantee that the participation you will get will be of people of like-minded, negative. I think you'll get negative feedback. You're not going to get somebody coming to say, hey, keep your fees, even though you'll get there's a large sentiment of people who would think that. You're going to get a definite story, but I would like to have that conversation and to have those people kind of hear the rationale behind it, whatever we decide.
Yeah, I think that this is a good start, maybe to ask for discussion, just like we did tonight, because it did exactly what we were hoping it would do. Spur it on a discussion and get the community input, have a public hearing on it, and let the community tell us what they think. Because I agree, there's going to be both. There's going to be people strong on one side and other people that are going to be strong about, I pay my bill on time, so why is someone else not getting fined because they're not?
Should we bring this back in September then? Does that sound like a good time frame?
September, oh yeah, you wouldn't be here.
I don't think whatever our proposal is and the feedback we get from a work session or a public hearing, we're still going to be faced with the same scenario, really, in terms of, a late fee, no late fee, shut off. When you come to shut off time, you're talking about extensive dollars compared to paying a $5 or $10 late fee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I guess I kind of concur with Councilor Scott, is that other fee punitive? And I'm not convinced it is or is not, Barry, but because there is cost related to delinquency over time, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a good discussion, and having citizen input is valuable, and but we still will have, I think, the same scenario when we come to the table.
Right. Well, it's a little beyond the subject of this particular agenda item, but we tabled the water rate increase. But the truth is, the whole water situation is a package deal of water rates, policies, collection fees. It's the whole thing, and we're dealing with one piece at a time in some of these agenda items. For example, back on agenda item 3 that we tabled, there's a whole list of. Well, for example, one thing that we didn't talk about, there's a standby water service charge for people who are using less than 1 unit per billing cycle. And the truth is, there is no standby service charge. It's the same as, the base rate's identical. In other words, there's no discount for standby. I know there's been some conversation about having a standby water rate. But to me, all of these things need to probably be in one policy conversation instead of splitting them out over separate issues, to me. I'm talking about the rate increases, the standby rates, the collection policies, the whole sheet metal. It's a water policy that I think we need to have a conversation about.
Do you consider stormwater a part of that?
You know, as a conversation, perhaps, I think it is a separate voting issue. I mean, it's a separate utility, and I think we need to keep that in mind. But, and I think in the public mind, it's all coming on one bill, and in the public mind, it's one issue.
They see it as one issue.
Yeah, so yeah, I think this conversation needs to be all related. You know, I would have some comments to make about the standby service charge. I think there's some, yeah, I'd be interested in knowing a little more data on that, but again, I'm a little off topic at the moment for the way the agenda's presented.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on this, if we want to move forward with this and get some public input on this particular write-up that we have?
That's a good idea.
Okay. Nate, have you got a direction you feel? I'm not sure I do.
Again, I would comment that if we are going to seek public opinion on this issue, I would like to see us craft that public conversation to cover some of these other issues. I mean, I think to parse out, you know, I think it's just going to confuse the public to do it one little piece at a time.
I kind of think the opposite. I think it would be better to do it in smaller increments, so we're only dealing with the one particular part of it. So it's not as confusing, because once we start getting to stormwater rates, we start getting to water rates, and then the policy of how we pay, those all become very complex and very long.
2-hour conversations per piece at some point. I think you're talking about a day-long session with Shelley Garrett in the audience.
Wow.
And
Barry, I think density does cause some issues, combining them.
yeah.
I understand what you're saying is trying to coordinate them all, but I think that when we're discussing them, I think it would be easier for people to digest in smaller chunks. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I know it is for me.
What, just simplify this whole package? I don't know. You know, are we overcomplicating it governmentally? I don't know. You know, I'm not sure about that.
I think it's complicated in other municipalities as well.
Yeah.
Can we do better? I don't know.
We could reinvent the wheel, yeah.
Let's not rule it out.
So is the council okay with going forward with presenting this to the public as an option that we're discussing and seeing what kind of feedback we get?
Yeah.
We may get little feedback, we may get a lot. It'll be interesting to see, and if we can do it on the website, we could do a survey where we do Survey Monkey, I guess, or whatever we use, and maybe do some different electronic means, and then we can accept written. People want to come to a meeting. Probably. Oh, go ahead, Wayne.
I was just going to say, when we had the work session on water rates, you see what we had.
Yeah.
We had nobody.
I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
So,
But then when people are calling you, and you can say, we've had 10 sessions on this, where were you? You know, I mean, it's like not voting and then complaining about the president.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you must be engaged at some level for me to have sympathy for you. It was a very long, complicated process. All this whole water is. Every time it comes up, it's very long, it's very complicated, and it's never popular. And you make a decision that somebody calls you about a year later upset with. And it's like, honey, you have no idea the hours that we put into that.
Okay.
So do you want to put this out and bring it back at the June meeting, or do you want to,
Let's do that.
or do you want to bring it back in July, give us some time to get it all?
Actually, yeah, if we did July, we would have the month of June to get more input. Yeah.
I think we better go longer.
Yeah.
I'm with John, September.
You'd probably like to see 2015.
It really isn't. It doesn't seem like a very urgent item. It is, we're not.
It'd be nice
We're
to
not
get
solving
going,
world
but-
peace, but it would be nice to move.
Okay, July. How about?
Well, I need to know if I need to pay my bill by the 15th or not.
Where's your door hanger, dude? You didn't bring it
In my
today.
collection.
Okay, city clerk, score one.
had a response.
Just tell them to bring the form back.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, number 8, communication policy update. We had a communications policy meeting on the 25th and discussed a new policy. We agreed on the basics, talked about it. I've put together a rough draft. The city managers currently, the city manager and the city managers, department managers are reviewing it and will give me feedback. And then it'll go back out to the committee, and then we'll get more input on there. I should be able to bring a draft policy at the June meeting. That's my goal. So, and I apologize. I wanted to have it sooner, but it's just, I want to make sure everybody has input. And I think getting the manager's input was John's idea, and I think that's a good idea to make sure that they're on board too. Okay, customer service survey. The city clerk, Linda Kaser. I think we have our little brochure here.
Yes, we do. Improving customer satisfaction was one of the goals that you established in February, I believe, of this year. Then in March, we came back to help achieve that goal. We were directed by council to draft the customer service policy that you see in front of you, the folded version. Jamie worked on that draft and did a nice job. I think it's, we just made a few changes. We received a couple comments from council, mainly just to add a little bit more comment space. I did change the grading language. We did have like an A through
like that.
D or F. I just felt it was more positive approach if we, you know, for the employee's perspective, from the employee's perspective, if we did superb, you know, and rather than a grading system. So superb, satisfactory, and needs improvement. There were a couple other counselor comments that were basically, I felt that they were ranking, they asked if we could add questions ranking more of a policy, and it seemed like it was geared around maybe water and sewer rates and how the customers felt about those policies. So I guess I'm asking for direction. I didn't put anything like that in the survey because I'd like a little bit more direction from council. Do you want it to be more based on a service, you know, customer service-based questionnaire, or would you like it based on a policy?
Well, I was one of the ones that
Questionnaire.
had brought that up to you.
Well, you're not the only one.
Oh, okay.
Not the
okay.
only one.
I did too. Okay. Didn't realize you did. And I actually think for this that the customer service aspect of it is correct. And I think
so,
putting
too.
too much on here would start to make it kind of diluted.
No one will fill it out if you have too many questions.
That would be maybe something that we do specifically, maybe some kind of poll or something different specific. But I think with for our customer service, that's really what we want to target on this. I don't
Okay,
want to
good.
see it diluted. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I think it would be better to be more customer service oriented. I know that was Councilor Boland's intent when he had asked about this.
Yeah, and I think that is, you know, from a staff level, you know, how can we improve and what, you know, how are we serving the city, not necessarily from an elected position. They vote, they tell us how we're doing every time they vote, you know, so.
From my perspective, there's two basic ways that the city interacts with the public. One is how well the staff do as people, and two is how well our policies are accepted. And, for example, I have heard a variety of complaints about folks going in to deal with, you know, paying water bills and different things at the front desk. And consistently, when I talk to folks, you know, they come out, they're bent out of shape, they don't like what happened in there. But when you really probe, what you find out is that the people were friendly and professional, did a good job. And what they're really unhappy with is the policy that those folks had to implement. And yet they often don't distinguish what made them unhappy.
No.
And so, you know, I'm a little reticent to subject our staff to getting, you know, whipsawed with unhappy things when people are really unhappy with what we have established and asked them to do and not with how they're doing their job. And to me, this is asking how they're doing their job, which I think is great to find out. The truth is, I hear very little complaints about our staff, because we've got good staff. And most of them are just highly professional almost all the time. And so, I think it's great to find that out, but I really suspect that where we have a rub is because folks don't like what they're being told.
I think
Don't like the policy.
Yeah.
I think it's in the tone that it's delivered, and I think you're probably right, and we're implementing some ways. So if you get a series of negative comments saying Rebecca was really rude to me at the front counter, then you can at least take a sample of videos of me and listen to how I approached that. Well, did I say, I'm really sorry and I understand, did I come from that kind of a level, or did I say, honey, go talk to your city councilor? How did I present that information to you? And if I did, if I'm doing consistently the best I can, then you're going to have to discount these, especially at that desk. That's where people go and they're ticked.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're ticked because we've raised their rates.
Folks that sit at that desk, deserve a medal.
Right. I mean, it is war.
Because that's a tough spot to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Because people come in there unhappy.
Right.
And,
But I think as long as we have some sort of a tool to be able to distinguish, to be able to look, and we're still moving forward on that, it's like...
On the video, I believe so. Dean, are we still working on that project with the videos?
They've already started installing it.
Okay, good.
So as long as we have some sort of a tool that at a manager level, they can, you can deal with that, the dean can deal with that, to pull it and say, yeah, maybe your tone is wrong, and coach them to say, here's some other things you might say that kind of disarm people, because if people are coming in angry, how you deal with that anger makes all the difference.
Well, any way we can support those folks at that counter, to help them be more effective with folks, because it's a tough job.
Yeah.
You're making good points, but I think you're also going to draw out that other conversation that you may want to have on the policy implications. That'll come through your comments. Please offer other ways we can improve. That's a wide open opportunity.
Yeah, I could see somebody putting, my rates are too high, or, something on there.
As well as what Dean will be doing with the Survey Monkey, asking about the rate changes and the policies. I think that will also get the feedback that you're looking for, Councilor Scott.
I understand your point of this, it just on its own could crucify the people at the front desk who are doing a good job.
Right. Yeah, and that really was the point of my comment about policy.
Yeah.
I like the, do you want somebody to contact you from the staff? That's good. And I also like the changing of the grading. I like this better than the letters. It looks a lot better.
Thank you. Good job.
And the categories
Good job,
are good.
Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie did a good job on this.
So with your approval, then we'll make sure that they're at every front counter. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we, can we do, and I don't know how difficult it is I know we don't have web design services in-house, but could we do some kind of an online form like this too? Is
Sure.
that
You bet.
something similar? And then get it emailed to probably you?
Oh,
No, wherever,
did you want
but-
that directly to you, those emails?
No, they'll go to you. They'll be fine. But whoever, and who will these go to when they get emailed to the city?
We can discuss that in department manager meeting tomorrow. Maybe each department manager that serves that counter area.
Okay.
But I'll leave that to John.
If we put something like this online, is there a way to refer to that? For example, in our water bills, there's a way to put a blurb on there, so, if you want to give us some feedback, go to the website and...
Link it to the other survey?
Yeah.
Sure.
Just let people know it's there and where to find it.
Yeah.
They can do that any day of the week. Now.
Yeah.
Anything else, Linda? Did you need from us?
that should
Very
do it.
good. Thank you.
And at some point, the council would get kind of a digest of what's came in cumulatively.
Sure.
Okay.
We can do some kind of a spreadsheet.
That'd be nice. Okay.
We'll have to analyze the handwriting.
Yeah.
If they all look the same, we know.
I'll leave that to Frank.
Number 10, City Manager Report, John Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor, and I've got an oral report today, but in the future, I'll have a written report in the packet. Just didn't have time to pull it together for you. I would like to take a few minutes, though, just to talk about my first couple of weeks with you, and it has been...
Is your mic on?
It's not.
Now, can you hear me?
There you go.
I had it just the way I wanted it. And, well, it's been a pleasure for me to get to know the people in the organization and the community, and it really has been fun, frankly, getting around, making the acquaintances. I've had individual meetings with the department managers. We meet collectively every week, and we'll continue to do so. I've had some other meetings with additional staff that have wanted to either give me a tour of the facilities or just attend a volunteer recognition event. So I've also taken some of your time, Mayor and Councilor, so I've appreciated the reception that I've received. My observation when I first came over and talked to you, I said I'd talk a little bit about the highlights that I've seen in the organization since I've been here, and also where I think I'll spend my future time as we go through the transition period. And my big highlight is just to note that your staff is not only professional, as you've talked about, but they're also extremely busy. There's a lot on the table right now. And I've just got a sampling of 3 or 4 of the projects in each of those departments that I want to share with you. And then in future meetings, again, I'll have that in writing. Dean and finance staff are very busy with budget, bond sale. We had the recent payroll conversion that we talked about recently, and then the utility billing question just takes time to work through as well. Administration staff, there's really some staff realignment discussions going on. There's an assistant city manager position that also did HR management that is no longer in the organization. That position isn't budgeted for 13-14, so we're having a discussion on how do we realign and keep our services going for the organization and the community, given there's going to be one fewer person in the administration department. We've just talked about other communication tools in the survey, but those are other things that are taking Linda and Jamie and Debbie's time. The library has really good usage numbers, in my opinion. Usage numbers are up. They've got adult programming that's going to be enhanced, and then there are technology enhancements that they're working through with information services that are really going to do good things for the library department in terms of better customer service as other book ordering opportunities are pursued. Information services are very busy with internal support for the operating departments. I have had good conversations with Brent about potential partnership opportunities with other entities like the school district. So there may be something there that would be a good stretching of community-wide resources, but also build some capacity within city government. Senior Center, Community Garden, Adventure Group kickoff, grants for Dial-A-Bus. Kendra and her staff are very busy. Community Development, we had Walt's presentation on the annexation. There's a subdivision application coming forward to the Planning Commission here next week, and we've also got an application for more refinement on the new hotel proposal that's part of that, the North Gateway project as well. So some real exciting activities in community development. Chief Stevenson has shared with me there's new staff in jail and also on motor patrol. He also talked about the Cop Logic project that's coming forward through the department. Mentioned that at our department manager meeting. That's a really exciting project, not only for what citizens can do to report to the police department crimes using technology versus phone calls, but also what it does for freeing up the officers to spend more time out in the community with direct contact time with clients. So that's a good project. Utility engineering maintenance, I bundle them together, and they've got a heavy project load. The capital improvement program in this community is similar to what I've seen in communities 3 and 4 size. So there's really a bubble of projects coming through the system in the form of the treatment plant design, the water reservoir that's underway, the West Side Interceptor project, just a lot of projects. Crews certainly busy on construction. We threw in the highway the highway overlay project, so we could keep Ron and Jason up all night, as well as during the day with the other capital projects. And then the rates review, I think, has been well done since I've been here, too. So just very impressed with the staff and the services that they're providing the community, and look forward to the next couple of months. That's it?
That's it. All right. Okay, items from council. I have one thing. Actually two things I'd like to start with. City manager hiring process update. So far, we have 16 applicants. There's still 2 weeks left in the listing. Prothman said that they didn't say it in this exact terms. I'm going to use these terms. City managers are notorious for getting them in at the deadline. So they are looking forward for quite a few more. And that wasn't you they were talking about specifically. Prothman sent out 1,000 direct mail job announcements to city council managers, city county managers in the states of Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, Nevada, Utah, Alaska, Arizona, California, North Dakota, South Dakota. And again, the listing will close in 2 weeks. And the last thing I have is, if you're not aware, the Coon Theater reached its goal of $35,000 online to convert to their digital. The community came up with that money, and it's pretty impressive. It was just very awesome. And, I saw a negative, I think it was in the Lebanon Express, about someone, they're a business, and they are a business, but it's a community, and it's an important part of our community. So it's pretty neat. That's all I have. Councilor comments? You guys just ready to go home?
Night.
Thank you. It was good. It was. You guys did a good job. And
Chief, congratulations on the comments from your staff.
yeah, very good. Good. And we are impressed.
Yeah.
I know, I almost threw it.
And lastly, public comments. Was there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Shelley.
How come that doesn't surprise me much?
I just wanted to compliment Dean. I thought the presentation on the billing process was really good and logical, and I think it'll be effective. Barry, the $5 or whatever you come up with should be punitive, because they're putting you in a position of having to chase after money that they owe you. When I bounce a check, which rarely happens, I did a lot when I was young, there was like a $30 fine. I don't ever bounce a check anymore, because first of all, my husband would be mad, everybody in town knows me, and I don't want to pay $35. So that's the purpose of that particular, it should be punitive. And the last thing I wanted to say is that the last time we had a meeting like this and discussed it, there was the same amount of people in the audience, and if you postpone your decision on the process, your summer bills are going to be your high water bills. So you're already going to be putting yourself in a position of starting this new process when you're at the peak of your high bill time. So you might give consideration to getting it ready before the hot weather hits and the water usage goes up, so the people can't dig into bigger holes with larger water bills. That's just my 2 cents. I have no idea if that plays out in the way I was thinking it did, but I was thinking the summertime is rare, but we're starting in early summer, so your usage is going to go up quicker. So just to give you that thought process. So good job on that, Dean. I was hard on you last time, so I'm giving you the compliment.
Thank you, Shelley. And any other councilor comments? Meeting is adjourned.